Hello, everyone, and welcome to Conversations in Horror. I am your host, Kevin Powers. I'm also the festival director and program director of Something Wicked Film Festival events, and welcome to this podcast. Now, tonight we have some special guests tonight that will be talking with one of my favorite gore fest films called Dead Alive, or what I like to call it, Brain Dead, which is the better title in my opinion. And to speak with us on this film is Dave Watkins and Nate Hill. Dave, both of these guys are amazing indie filmmakers who have done lots of stuff. But Nate's also a published graphic novel artist and creator.
No, graphic novel writer, sir.
Writer.
Somebody else did the actual art.
So
I just wrote the words.
He just wrote the words, so he'll tell us a little about words when it comes to these films, okay? But these two guys are here, and we're gonna dissect and get into the guts of Brain Dead, one of Peter Jackson's more gory and I guess crazy films before he did The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings. So just to get a little bit of background, guys, tell me a little bit about your first time seeing this movie, Brain Dead. How about you, Dave?
So I've always known it as Dead Alive, but yeah, I think Brain Dead, they weren't able to use that title in the United States because of the Brain Dead movie that has Bill Paxton and Bill Pullman in it. Yeah.
I know
it's actually the guy who directed it is the writer from Bones that we just talked about.
Huh.
Brain Dead, but this one Peter Jackson directed it. It's my first time I saw it. It was on I think HBO or something like that, and I saw like a brief little snippet. It was like the HBO like ad. It was like next Brain Dead, and it was like a few seconds of it, and so it was just like I remember watching it the first time. It's being blown away by how ridiculous and just all the gore in it. It was just like it was like so much it became hilarious. It was, and it's just like and that was kind of my first impression of it. And I think I recorded it at the time on the VHS, and then I went and showed it to some other people. I was like, you got to check this thing out.
We didn't know what Over the Top was until we saw Brain Dead / Dead Alive.
So, and everyone forgive me if I call it Brain Dead or Dead Alive. We're talking about the same movie. I've known it as both titles my entire life, and so I just call it Brain Dead a lot. I have
well, the people who worked on it call it Brain Dead because that's how they knew it when they were shooting it, and then I think everywhere else but in the U.S. they know it as Brain Dead.
My first encounter with it was Dead Alive. This thing is like fixated in my skull as Dead Alive.
So mine is a little funny story. I remember this movie when it first came out. Fangoria did this huge write-up on the movie. They were like plugging this movie as the greatest horror film to ever come out. I took forever for it to fucking come out on VHS. Yes, VHS is when I saw this motherfucking movie. VHS tape. So me trying to dying to see this movie because I had read articles about it from Fangoria, and I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be the greatest movie ever. The poster was amazing. I love the fact that someone's got their mouth coming open and there's a freaking skull out there, and I'm like dying to see this movie. So I told my entire family about this fucking movie called Dead Alive. We're all sitting down watching this movie, and the first thing that my parents say to me is, what the fuck are we watching? Because they were not used to that type of comedy in a horror movie. Like my parents, they grew up. We watched the Stephen King movies. We watched the damn Aliens movie. Dead Alive / Brain Dead is not that. I had to take the movie out of the VHS player and watch it by myself because everyone in the family said, what the fuck are we watching? We need to stop this. This is the worst piece of shit they've ever seen. I was like, man, but there's gore. Yeah, I was a little kid, dude, and they couldn't take it. That was my first impression, so I had to go watch it by myself in the little corner while everyone else was probably watching whatever the latest Stephen King movie was.
It's definitely not a scary movie, and the whole thing is like for the most part, it's very brightly lit.
It is
so
Looney
so
Tunes
bright. Yeah,
with blood and gore.
yeah. There's a actually there's I listened to an interview with one of the main actor, Timothy Baum, and he said that they asked him about Looney Tunes. Was it inspired by Looney Tunes? And he said no, it was inspired by Buster Keaton.
Yeah,
who probably okay. Looney Tunes was inspired from him.
Well, I can see that because in some of the instances where his character is hiding behind the bus and then jumping on the bus instead of talking to Paquita are definitely
it's a lot of physical comedy.
Physical comedy is definitely Buster Keaton.
Yeah. But I guess as far as I can see the Looney Tunes from just how bright it is for a lot of the movie. There's a few exceptions, like the graveyard scene, and even like the in-house party is kind of dark in some areas, but for the most part, it's pretty brightly lit.
Yeah,
which is unusual for a horror movie, especially for that time period where people were wanting it to see something scary, and it ends up being like so over the top. It just becomes ridiculous, and it just amps up. It just starts out with a little bit, and it gets more and more absurd as it goes on.
Oh no, I think it starts off absurd, especially when the museum guy with the monkey, the natives realize that he's been clawed, and they just keep cutting off pieces of him until he's dead. I think it was pretty slapstick for the very first one.
Well, I'm just saying there's like little stuff starts to happen. Like they progressively, like the mom gets bit, or it gets bitten by the monkey, and then it's like it doesn't start out like so much as like it's gross. It's like little gross, and you see her arm from the bite, and it's just like instead of just like showing it a little bit, it actually shows this little piece of meat inside the arm, and they're like squinching it around, and it's just like
and then it starts spurting. It looks like a mix of ketchup and mayonnaise. What comes out of there?
Yeah,
so it's just like but it's so gross, and I think that was like. It didn't bother me as much the first time I saw it when I was younger, but it definitely was bothering me a little bit more this time. I knew not to eat when I was watching the movie before I started to watch it,
No doubt.
but at the same time, it's like there's a few times where I was like, okay, I might have to look away and not watch this part because it's so much gore and
I agree with you. Remember, my thing is I had seen it as a kid, loved it as a kid, but when I rewatched it, I was like, oh man, I don't remember it being this gory. I was like, oh my God.
It's kind of, I mean, it's like this hilarious stuff happens though, it's just like, it's...
And it definitely goes for the gross out horror here.
Yeah.
Now, the thing about this movie, Brain Dead, is that in the early 90s when it came out, you didn't see these type of gross out comedy horrors out there. I mean, I think we were getting a lot of the watered down teen comedies in there. I always forget when those started. The more or less teen comedies, and this was like an odd gross out horror comedy that also had hints of romance in it, which is not what you're expecting for this type of movie. The only thing I knew about it going in was that it was a zombie movie, and I was a huge zombie fan as a kid. So that's the thing that got me to wanting to see this movie is because it was a zombie movie.
I'm pretty sure the whole teen Scream thing of the 90s started with Scream, frankly, which came out, 95?
Yeah, this was around there. This was 1992, and it was a New Zealand movie. You may not know it. I didn't know it until I was listening to some interviews, but it's actually set in the 50s, New Zealand. So like a lot of people just kind of assumed that New Zealand, that was just kind of how they dressed there,
Oh my God, really? I didn't even think about that. I always knew it was a film. Oh my God.
Yeah,
it never occurred to me this might be a period piece.
Yeah, and it's cool that a period piece is cool because then you don't have to deal with any technology. There's no real technology involved in the movie. They don't have to deal with any cell phone or anything like that. So
the thing that made it feel period to me was the very beginning. Actually, when I first saw it, I saw the trolleys. The thing for me, trolleys is I'm like, dude, there's no trolleys in America anymore. Keep in mind, I don't think I was really, when I first saw this, I knew it was a New Zealand film. So when I'm watching and I'm seeing trolleys, I'm thinking fucking Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. And so I'm not thinking something that's modern. I was thinking of something that's really freaking period and old. So that's what I'm thinking of.
Right, right. Yeah, I mean, it's weird. I never like it really never really registered to me that it was supposed to be taking place in the 50s, but it completely makes sense if you think about it. They said originally that it was supposed to take place in the 70s, but then they backed it up to the 50s, which I
Oh
think I
wow.
recall because it would have been into some hippie stuff.
Quick
in the
point,
70s.
actually. Kevin, I appreciate the fact you just associated Dead Alive with Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. That was well done, sir.
Yeah,
But
I could see the parallels.
It's the trolley. The trolley is the only thing I can think of, dude. When I see trolleys, I think Mister Rogers' Neighborhood. I'm thinking something that's a period thing because his show always was this timeless, older type of show, and not something that was really in a modern day setting for me. Anyone else, but for me,
There's a phone booth in there. You see a phone booth in the movie, and back when this came out, it wasn't very uncommon for a phone booth to actually be around, But it's very almost British looking. It's New Zealand, but it is kind of it doesn't look like the ones that were in the U.S.
Mm. So just take a quick tangent before I forget. One of the things I really didn't notice this time watching it is the fact that the beginning takes place on Skull Island, which I don't think I noticed when I watched it as a kid.
Yeah,
I didn't notice that.
They have that the rat creature that bites them and infects them and turns them into zombies is from Skull Island.
And then of course, Peter Jackson has done the remake of King Kong, and he's talked all about his love of the movie. And then I was like, holy shit, now I see it now that I'm older. Because when I saw this before, there was no freaking director's commentaries. The only thing I knew of is when they would interview him for an article for the movie, and that was about it. I don't remember him saying anything about his love of King Kong or Skull Island or any of that stuff. But it was fun to see this movie now and see those parallels of how much he loved King Kong and how much he brought it into the movie.
I guess as far as Skull Island, it's not something that I would have registered with King Kong. I was familiar with King Kong when I saw it, but I didn't know enough about it to say Skull Mountain. Was it Skull Mountain, Skull Island, and King Kong combined? But I guess it's in public domain, or he wouldn't have been able to put it in there. Skull Island.
I don't think that anyone really copyrighted Skull Island.
Yeah.
But the thing is, as filmmakers, and we're all independent filmmakers, this is one of the things that we would throw in our films for our homages to films that we absolutely love. I'm sure I've done it in my one feature I finished, where I've done some homages to films that I absolutely love. So I can see it in Peter Jackson's earliest films that he would do the same thing. And of course, that lucky bastard ended up going off and actually directing a remake of King Kong.
The circle was completed.
It was a very, very long one too, but it's impressive but long.
Moving on back into Dead Alive. Yes, Nate. Yes, yeah. I see you have. There's a thought on your brain. People can't see
comment.
See it. Go ahead.
When I was looking into the background on this, I got stuck on the rat monkey creature. Now, for those who don't know, the rat monkey creature in Dead Alive is the cause of the zombie outbreak, and the origins of the rat creature on Skull Island was that tree monkeys got raped by a giant rat and thus created the rat monkey, which, since rats are full of disease and viruses and things, of course the rat monkey causes a zombie outbreak whenever it bites people.
The rat monkey, when it's a stop motion animation, it looks pretty cool, really. But obviously stop motion, but the Peter Jackson did that himself. He was kind of but it also kind of reminds me a little bit of that Silicious Crumb from Return of the Jedi. The way it kind of looks. Jabba's
I can actually see that.
Yeah,
I can see that too now. I haven't even thought about that. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
A little bit, but that scene with the rat monkey though, it bites the mom, and I guess like the I mean, I actually like the romance thing. It's like really cheesily done in the movie, but
Oh
it's
yeah.
like so it's so like, and I like the actress that, and she is I think she's Spanish maybe or something like that. You know, she's
It's
not
a good
from New
question,
Zealand. I
actually.
looked her. She's from like she's not from New Zealand. Most of the other actors are,
Mm.
but and she's yeah. So, but she's really I like her. I like his and her vibes. He's kind of, you know, there. I like the just the energy that everybody brings into the movie. It's just like and the way that most of them speak with New Zealand accents, so it just makes it
Hmm.
like funny when they're talking. But it
And
is a
how?
little there is a little bit of a one thing that kind of was weird to me. It was like, especially earlier on in the movie when it's showing her close up or his close up, it's like they're so tight on their faces. It's like you
Hmm.
back that thing up about a few feet, you know. It's maybe a little too close, but
If you notice, there are a ton of close-ups in this movie, which I didn't notice before. But when I rewatched it, I was like, "Wow, Peter Jackson really had that camera up on all these actors a lot."
and really close earlier on. But it actually kind of adds to the feel of it a little bit. But it's very, as far as like his rest of his, you know, even like the Frighteners, you don't see like that type of stuff going on. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you know, but it's almost specifically for this movie. I mean, maybe Bad Taste had a little bit of this going on, but it's very, a very almost like Gonzo type of feel to the whole movie. And it's,
Ah.
but
Well,
But
but
how
it's like,
perfect was the actor Timothy Balm
yeah.
as the main character here? You know, he's got that just natural cheese vibe to him.
yeah, well, he's a mother's boy who is going on his own personal hero's journey, which is quite funny because that's the whole thing with the Paquita and her mother, and the story that they're telling her when in regards to her soulmate will be this.
Oh, with the tarot cards
Yeah,
and
with the tarot cards will be this guy that will have to go on this weird journey and
Yeah.
save her from the forces of darkness.
And she says like, yeah, and she pulls the card and it's like a night card. The night he looks like a badass, and this
Yeah.
guy's like not a badass in the least, and he never is really in the movie.
he's
But
like
it's like funny.
screwing up, picking up groceries.
Yeah,
I mean,
there's like another guy who's like she's like in love with, and she's like, it's not him, it's somebody else, you know.
the mother's like, "Fuck that guy. You
Yeah.
need to go with this guy."
Yeah.
Well, she'd rather deal with fate than to go outside of that. So even though she likes the attractive doctor, she's going to go with her mother's. You're fated to go with this guy who will become a great warrior and save her from the forces of darkness.
But you know, and it was funny though. I mean, it's a good thing that they had that aspect in there, because what happens with the main character, he becomes more and more like pathetic as the movie goes on, and she's still like into him.
Mhm.
You know, he's like going around like wearing a trench coat, looking like shit. You know, and he's like carrying like what is it? Those tranquilizers, you know, and he just
Oh
looks like
yeah,
a
that's right.
buggy, you know. He's, you know, and then she's like still into him just because of her grandmother's tarot card reading, you know.
She has a lot of faith in her grandma. I'll say that.
Well, it ends up paying
It's
off,
50s. It's the
but it's
50s.
like, yeah.
Oh, see, next time I watch this now, I'm gonna think about the 50s. I just kind of had it in my brain that was a period film and didn't take place in the modern day. Now I'm gonna think 50s. I'm like, oh, this is gonna change for me next time I watch this movie.
So, what do you think the best scene is in the movie as far as stuff?
Wow.
You- That's a good question. It depends on your outlook. The funniest one or just the best one in general? Because for me, as a lover of zombie films, I love it when he shows up at the end of the party with the lawnmower and he's just
Okay.
going down all the zombies. I think that's the most awesome scene in any zombie film, pretty much. Because he just goes to town with them, and there's gore and blood splashing everywhere. I can watch that scene a billion times. But
Yeah, something about that scene though. It's like apparently the whole sequence from the whole part at the end, from the beginning of the party to the end of it.
Epic.
Yeah, but it took them 6 weeks to shoot all that. But, you know,
I remember.
apparently it progresses like, you know, from the house keeps getting more and more demolished as they're going. and he's getting more and more blood on him, and he'd say like he would have to keep the same wardrobe on for the whole time, and then they would just get blood on it. He'd come in and it'd be like stiff like cardboard because it's made out of corn syrup, and he said they'd have to spray him down with water to get it actually like it was fitting.
Oh wow!
He said the whole place they used maple syrup instead of Caro, which would Caro
Oh.
too. But he said the whole place smelled like maple syrup, and he doesn't really eat maple syrup anymore after that. That's
You imagine the flies, the bugs. That must have been
6 weeks.
he didn't say anything about flies though. It's probably because of the it could have been a certain time of the year they had it enclosed. You know, it was like inside of probably a studio, and they had it enclosed so the bugs couldn't get in there.
This wasn't no Texas Chainsaw Massacre filming right there, where everyone was almost about to throw up because of the smell and the real meat and all the real stuff in the set.
I'm pretty sure a lot of people in this movie came close to throwing up. I mean, just given the circumstances.
Well, the sheer amount of cast for this end scene with all the zombies and the lawnmower killing mowing through them all is just like astronomically crazy and ambitious for someone who's only done a handful of movies. So
they said
this was his third film.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah, it was his third after like not having it has a Meet the Feebles, was Bad Taste, and Meet the Feebles. They said he had everything storyboarded. They said he had about 600 pages of storyboard.
oh my god!
You but you'd almost have to the way that end scene is, you know, and then the way he said the way when they were shooting it, it was like go go go. It was like he's like now I'll go onto a set like this is like Timothy Baum telling this story, but he says now I'll go on a set and it's like I wait most of the time. It's like they're paying me to wait and then act for free. But this was like act, go go go. And he's like they would like finish shooting one thing, go over to a second unit room and shoot something else while something else is being prepped. You know. That's kind of how
they actually have some time and money left over after all that.
I mean, I did read something about that. I didn't see it in a specific interview. I did read something about that, but he said Timothy Baum said that what happened was they didn't let him shoot the baby scene in the park at first. They told him they didn't need it for the script, and so he went guerrilla. They wrapped and he went guerrilla, got a small crew out there, and then they shot at that for 2 days, and then so he said he had to work around. That's what Timothy Baum said. But I did see something else written that you probably saw. I'm not sure where that came from though.
Yeah, they just used the leftover funds and the time for the baby in the park scene, but I don't know.
It's two different. Yeah, it's two. I saw that. I don't know. But Timothy Baum said it himself. That's what he said. But sometimes like I don't know. I'm not sure which one's accurate.
Well, I will say this one since you brought it up, and that's the funniest fucking moment in the entire movie for me.
The baby,
the whole park through the baby thing, because it's so over the top and ridiculously crazy between the small little baby and the human playing the baby that's giant size. It's so freaking over the top crazy that you have to be in the mood for this type of film to actually go with that type of aspect, and they do it throughout the movie too. I just find
really that scene is the most like that because it doesn't make any sense that he would take the baby to the park.
It makes no sense.
And it's like it's so dangerous, and then it's like but it's so goofy, that part's like, I mean, obviously there's a lot of things that don't make a lot of sense, but that to me is like you almost have to. I mean, it's still hilarious, but if you're thinking, man, why is he taking the baby to the park when things like zombie? It's like...
It was not even his baby, so it's like, why?
So he must have been pretty deluded by that point, just pushed over the edge by all the zombies and the grossness so far.
It's hilarious. But what was your favorite scene of the thing, Nate?
Well, I have a soft spot for one particular scene in there. It's not the most epic, arguably not the most funny, but damn it, this is probably my favorite depiction of a priest in film that I will ever encounter. The priest who kicks ass for the Lord. And I'm not about to do that New Zealand accent, but holy crap.
Yeah. No, I agree with
Uh,
that. That's my favorite scene too. That thing is that thing
I
is
did write that one down to make comment on that scene because I had forgotten how fucking funny. I found that funny when I rewatched. I was like, "Oh, I forgot about this
yeah.
scene. This is
The,
so
the whole yeah,
awesome."
the whole thing's hilarious just because of how it's set up too. Because the priest is like doing the sermon and he's just a dick like on everybody. He's just like and then you don't expect him to like he goes out in the graveyard and then the biker dudes show up and like pee on his mom's grave and then she comes out and like rips his dick off and there's like blood going all over the place and
and kind of sucks him onto the grave and just rips him
yeah,
apart from inside the grave, and
and
blood
then
is going.
yeah, then all the biker guys
Oh
become
my
zombies, then out of nowhere the priest just shows up, and you're like, "What's he gonna do?" And suddenly he knows karate, and it goes on for like a long time.
It does.
And it kind of sucks that he gets killed though, because it's like so awesome that he's just like, "Shit, this priest can like kill these zombies,"
Yeah, but when I rewatched it, it just dawned on me: the priest, hooks up with the nurse, and they have the baby zombie.
Yeah.
So it's a priest who can kick ass in the name of the Lord and actually fornicate with nurses and everyone else while he's doing it. So
Wow.
he is a badass priest. I'm just
Yeah.
saying.
But it's I mean that's the amazing thing about the movie though is that there's that scene kind of in the middle of the movie. It kind of never stops though, but it has like that big scene in the middle. It has the really big scene at the last like 20 minutes of the house, but the it kind of never stops being. But there's like those are very epic scenes, both of those. But the whole escalation though, even like earlier on when the mom gets bit first and she's turning into a zombie and she still wants to go have her dinner party with her two people that show up, and he's trying to like part of her face rips off and he has to glue it back on, and then they then they go down to dinner and then the lady at the table's like noticing it, but her husband's like oblivious and she like squirts all this stuff into his like soup.
Yeah, that still gets me as one of the grossest moments in the movie. That one, because it's that ick factor, like he's eating it.
But it's weird though because
the
you would think
mother's
that
ear falls off into the
and then she
pudding.
eats it.
Oh,
But it's so gross. It's just, I mean, it's like, oh my God, it's gross. And then it just becomes like, to me, it's like what I was talking about when her arm is like messed up and there's got the really gross close up. It's almost for a second, they're so gross. And then it's like, they held on it for so long, it becomes hilarious,
Wow.
Because it's just like they're doing this just to really mess with the audience, really like gross them out. But that added a question though, because the guy eats it. So it's like, how do they? I mean, I guess only a bite for some reason would turn him into a zombie because you see him at the funeral and he's fine, and later on, like everyone, Lionel and the girl both have got blood all over them, and then they kiss with blood all over them. So you think just the blood itself doesn't do it for some reason. It has to be something to do with a bite,
Oh, now you're just making it more gross when I rewatch it. I'm just thinking about this stuff now because I'm trying not to think too hard about the movie because this is one of those films where I enjoy it for its entertainment value more than its cinematic value.
Speaking of gross, I assume everyone's favorite character is the uncle character that shows.
oh my God, that guy.
That's like shit all over. He's got like some kind of herpes on his face or something, and he's trying to steal his money.
Yeah, but
although the fact that this is in the 1950s kind of explains that guy's hair.
Yeah,
watching that, I was like, what the F is that thing?
That dude's like, yeah, I mean, he has a pretty awesome scene when he kills a bunch of zombies and he's just sitting there smoking with all these zombie like parts around him. He could have been
right.
He could have been a contender, but he's just like he loses his shit.
Well, there's that shot where he's all like fast motion with Jinsu knives.
Yeah, I mean, they could have they made him such a nasty character, but I mean, it's a great performance by that actor. His name was Ian Watkins, not Watkins, but Watkin. But
so is that one of your cousins?
That's your great grandfather.
Yeah, in New Zealand. Yeah.
Yeah, but he does get his comeuppance from his own sister later on when he gets his whole head and spine ripped out. It was,
Yeah, then he comes back like looking all real crazy, and then she blends his head.
I kind of think that Peter Jackson's ideal of zombies is kind of whatever I want to do, because I don't think I've seen anyone else do zombies as crazy as he has done in his films. I mean, is there any like you? I don't think I remember seeing anyone get shot in the head and them dying. I think really you cut them up in lots of pieces and they die.
Well, yeah, that's the way it is in Return of the Living Dead and Return of the Living Dead Part Two, because you can't kill them. They're you
Oh,
can't
that's
kill them by
right.
shooting them in the head. So it's similar, like that sort of aspect of it. I mean, these zombies though, they're the one guy's lungs fall out of his body and they come back to life, and for some reason keep trying to strangle him. But
Well, not just his lungs; it's his entire insides.
yeah.
Entire inside, or I think it's the same dude where he's cut in half, and then it's this top part of his body, and then you see his legs attached to that part of the body, and he's walking around.
Well, I guess, yeah. I mean, and I'm like thinking, how did they do that? Because I know in Return of the Living Dead Part Two, they used like an amputee to do something. Maybe they did it here too. But they said that everything in here is practical effects. So they said the guy's name's Richard Taylor was the FX guy. He has he owns like the Weta workshop. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, Peter Jackson's got to keep them employed. He created an entire industry for New Zealand from the freaking Lord of the Rings movies. The guy who did Bad Taste, which I hate to say, I can't really stand that movie. That's the only film I didn't really care for at all, and I've seen it like 3 times. I still don't like it.
Yeah. I saw it one time a long time ago. It didn't. I mean, I liked it okay. It's very indie. I mean, it's not like this. It's kind of like this with almost no budget, But it's like,
Oh,
I don't. I mean, it's been such a long time. I can't comment on it too much. I do remember it. I do remember it kind of being like almost felt like a predecessor to this, but not as good.
Not as good. Yeah, definitely not as good. But I enjoyed Meet the Feebles a hell of a lot more than that one. That's even gross. That's gross too.
Yeah.
Which is why, where Peter Jackson has come from, Brain Dead being like his breakout film, to Lord of the Rings and The Lovely Bones, and now these documentaries on the Beatles and so on and so forth. And then, we kind of wish that he'd go back and do something as gross like this. He's the only person who could do a good gross out horror comedy.
I wonder if he could go back to it though. If it's something like he's maybe gone so far into that, because he's kind of made this like digital stuff. He kind of brought that too. I wonder if he could go back to not doing that. I feel like he'd have to have that computer animation in there.
Yeah. Well, I think I to be honest with you, being an indie filmmaker, I wouldn't want to go back to the time where I did my first film and had no money, and I am now at a time where I have money, so I can think of bigger projects. I can see this. I kind of see Peter Jackson the same way I see Sam Raimi. Sam Raimi is someone who came from doing a really, really limited budget with The Evil Dead, The Evil Dead 2, to doing shit like Spider-Man trilogy. And he hasn't really gone back to doing something like The Evil Dead or Crime Wave or any of his earlier movies. He's kind of done the more elevated type of stuff. He produces a lot of great indie smaller horror films, but I don't think as much as I love what he did with Evil Dead and Army of Darkness, I'd be kind of afraid to see him do something like that again.
Drag Me to Hell. Maybe that's
Drag Me. That's right.
Yeah,
Drag Me to Hell was similar.
Drag Me to Hell was really good, but it wasn't Evil Dead. That too.
It almost felt like he always, if you've seen the unrated version, it's not as good, but there's some pretty ridiculous stuff in that movie. There's like when the gypsy's in the car, and I don't know, it just like, and then there's like the part where she starts bleeding out of her nose. It's just more graphic in some places, but it's actually, I would not recommend the unrated one. I think the other one's a stronger cut.
Oh, interesting.
Even though it's some more, there's more like grosser stuff in it, but for some reason it's almost like there just to be gross and not, So I don't know. It's different as
Well, there's a
Well, it's
reason
almost
why.
ridiculous. Like when she starts having the nosebleed, it's just so bloody. You know, it goes all over the boss and everything. It's just like it's almost comical. So it almost makes things that aren't funny funny. You know, it's almost like this in Dead
Ah,
Alive. You know, we're in Dead Alive. It's like this is funny, and it's like the whole movie's that way.
yeah.
But when it's only like a little bit, it kind of takes you out of the tone of the movie. You know.
Interesting. Interesting. I might just watch that one just out of curiosity. I'm still a huge Peter Jackson fan. I mean, me and Dave have discussed possibly doing focusing on the Frighteners in a future date, because that's one of my all-time favorites of his. That still is one of my all-time
Yeah.
favorites of his.
Yeah.
Um,
It's awesome.
Quite a good film.
I just think that he's a great storyteller, and even though his version of King Kong is long to some of you, I absolutely have seen that movie probably more times than I ever should have.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't necessarily. I mean, I don't know. It just. I like it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I just there's some pacing and stuff going on, but I like
There's
the way they fit
definitely
everything.
scenes that carry his horror style in there.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, there
I
is,
like.
but it's more of an adventure, and this one may have a little bit of adventure in it too, adventure quality with the hero's journey and everything like that. You know, Peter Jackson was just ahead of his time when he did this.
I just yeah, it's funny too. It's like it's funny that he was able to get away with it, and apparently
Well,
there. I don't ever seen there. Apparently, there's a U.S. cut that doesn't have a lot of gore in it, so I never seen that version. So I don't know how that is. You know, but,
I read that Germany had a really hard time with this film. You know, they had the most cuts and the most legal shenanigans with a film with Dead Alive.
right. Yeah.
Do you know how many? Do you know how big of a release it was in the U.S.? The thing is, I don't remember going to the theater. I just remember seeing the articles and the notifications of the film in Fangoria, and it getting a lot of accolades from film festivals and people who
Yeah.
would say it that way. But I don't remember it going to the
Yeah.
theater.
I don't know. I don't think so. I think they obviously had a probably limited release more than likely, but the what it really got was the HBO, you know, when it got on HBO and like a lot of people knew it from that.
Mm.
Um but the what was I gonna say?
Because that would be interesting. And that was the thing is the original version of Fangoria back in the day used to get a hold of all these great little indie films and filmmakers, and they would shepherd them with
Yeah.
their and that's how I knew about Dead Alive.
Yeah, I used to get Fangoria too. I probably saw it in there, more than likely. I don't know though. But I don't think that's how I came to learn about it. I think it was just like I was watching these. For some reason there's like it may have been Cinemax or either HBO. They had like some kind of late night where they would play a horror movie every week, and it was one of the ones that they played one week. And I was
Yeah.
thinking I got a Blu-ray from Spain, and that's where I actually watched it again on it, and didn't have any special features except for a trailer. And that trailer is I would not recommend watching that because it shows like scenes from the end of the movie, like the lawnmower scene. It shows the priest in it, just out of context, and it's just like I don't know, it's a horrible trailer. You know,
Okay.
I don't like trailers anyway. I don't like they give away too much stuff.
I think I might have to look up this trailer on YouTube. You've got me curious.
But it may not. I mean, I'm not saying it's. I don't know if that type of trailer and it has some kind of voiceover in it, making it sound like it's a '50s movie, which I guess is what they're trying to do. But I've never seen the trailer before, and you may not be able to find it. It's on the Spanish language disc, but it was. I mean, but it was. I don't know. It was just sort of like, oh, in so and so town, and blah blah blah, and it's Lionel's mother, and blah blah blah. You know. But it just showed like so much, you know. It was showing like it's like overload of how much like it was showing. But I mean, the movie has a lot in it, but
Yeah.
there's like no context to what it was showing, you know. It's just like showing stuff just to show it, you know.
Huh. Okay.
I don't think I've ever seen a trailer for this, actually. I just remember reading about it in Fangoria. I don't remember ever seeing a trailer for it. Like I can't remember who the original distributor was, so I don't recall ever seeing it on the trailer on another video advertising this movie. I literally knew about it from Fangoria, waited for it to come on video, went to the video store and rented it. So I don't think I've ever seen a trailer for this. Although
it's the first time I'd seen it too. It was,
yeah, but I didn't know who Peter Jackson was because of Fangoria and this movie. Because when he did Heavenly Creatures afterwards, I remember talking my family into renting that one as well, but not telling them who he had done Dead Alive before. And we actually watched that one as a family, and everyone really enjoyed that one.
Yeah.
And then I don't remember anything after that, but those two movies of Peter Jackson's were ones I saw when they originally came out. Bad Taste I didn't see for years. I don't think I saw that until after I'd seen like The Frighteners.
I remember having it. I had a hard time finding it. I was able to find it. I think it was like I had to get an imported VHS tape at the time from somewhere, and it wasn't easy. I had to pay like extra shipping and stuff.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
I have it now on DVD. I'm waiting for them to do an upgraded version. I mean, mine's not like a great version. It's just a standard DVD version of Bad Taste. Same with my Heavenly Creatures. I would love for him to do an upgraded version of that because that's still an excellent fucking movie that no one talks about.
I've never seen it myself.
It's good though. It's good. It has like Kate Winslet's in it.
Huh.
Yeah, before she got famous, she did this movie. It was really
Sorry,
good.
who?
Kate Winslet.
From Titanic and shit.
Way before Titanic. Peter Jackson movie that no one talks about anymor.
It's good though. Yeah. It's about these two girls that they kill one of their it was based on a true story. They kill one of their stepmoms or their moms, and then they both ended up getting arrested. But it's sort of like the build up to it, and they kind of become into they kind of go into this kind of fantasy world, and but it's a very interesting take on the whole situation.
If you've never seen it, you should definitely pick it up. I mean, even though I don't like Bad Taste, I would say you should watch that if you're a Peter Jackson fan and you want to see some weird shit. It's a funny concept. I think Dave hit it on the nail when he said that it was an acquired taste. That you just have to be in the mood for the indie movie that had big aspirations but limited means. It's kind of like watching John Carpenter's Dark Star. If you've seen that, you go back and watch that, and you're like, that's a rough one.
I thought it was kind of like that the first time I saw it, but I still enjoyed it. But it's funny the way it ends up when you look on like top 10. I mean, the top list of John Carpenter's movies. Some people put that really high up on the list for some reason. And it's like, why would they? I don't know. It's kind of odd that they want to throw that up there so high.
Oh, it's not the worst one, but it's definitely like the top. Like,
no. I mean, I don't know. They don't necessarily put it up at the top, but they always put it up higher than I would think it should be. But I guess that's their opinion. I mean, I guess it's just some good stuff in it, but it does. Even when I watched it the first time, I wasn't that into it because of the budget constraints.
Oh, that movie, Dark Star. Have you seen it, Nate?
Actually, no, I have not.
Okay. It gets better. For me, it got better with age. The first two times I saw it, I hated the fucking movie. It's kind of like Bad Taste, except for the fact that I actually enjoyed it more after reading about John Carpenter and Dan O'Bannon, who made the movie. I was reading more about those two, and I was like, okay, let me give it another chance. And I did, and I started to find the comedy in it after reading that. The first two times I saw it, I was like, this movie fucking sucks. This is the worst John Carpenter movie there is. It's not the worst anymore, for me anyways. But yeah, it was there for a long time. Bad Taste is like that with me. It's for me, it's the bottom of Peter Jackson's whole filmography. I've seen it 3 times. I still like whatever. It's not my cup of tea, and that's hard for me to say because I love Peter Jackson.
Well, I mean, it is like one of his first movies, so it's not like he's expecting you to think that's in the top 10. You know
what? You say that. I'm sure that there's some people out there who love Christopher Nolan's first film, Following, and I hate that fucking movie too. I think that's a piece of shit movie too. I know some people are going to be listening to this say, "You hated Following." Yes, it's a piece of shit movie. It's boring, it's long, and it is like,
Isn't it? It's like black and white, right? Which
Yeah,
is
it's
kind of a
black and
cool
white.
thing. Yeah, I think I saw it. I think I struggled to get through it as well, from what I
struggle.
remember.
I didn't mind it.
He
It was.
takes that concept and he does it better with Memento. And I was like, dude, I'm sorry.
Mhm.
Following was dull, boring.
Yeah, I like Memento. I remember like somebody was really trying to get me to watch that for some reason, but it was like check it out, and and it was like I'm struggling to get through this movie. It's a bit. I mean, I could see where the filmmaking was there. I could see that. I could see why it was. You could tell that the filmmaking that which he became he's became famous for was there. It was just like something about it, but I don't remember it that well.
Um, and I'm gonna go just a little bit more with this before I bring it back to where I want to bring it back to. But the thing with Memento and Following is I see Christopher Nolan having taken some interesting concepts in filmmaking and stretching time and rearranging time, and then he excelled with that with his later films, such as Interstellar and Tenet, where he takes those concepts and blows it out the fucking water, and it amazes audiences everywhere.
Yeah.
But
Always,
people,
always liked Memento though. Always thought that was a it was a cool concept. I just see that most people don't think about that one anymore, but they do, like the Prestige and all that.
Yeah.
anytime someone puts a list of their top Christopher Nolan films, Memento's like always at the top, if not the top. And I'm like, he has done better movies than that. Like Peter Jackson, I love Peter Jackson's movies. He has become a much better filmmaker over the years. And so some people still put these older movies real at the top of his list.
Yeah, yeah. It's kind of like people putting Dark Star really high on John Carpenter's list. It's just
It's one of those things where I can see why John Carpenter doesn't talk about those older movies anymore. For him, he redid Assault on Precinct 13 as Ghost on Mars and just improved on the concept by making it a futuristic sci-fi film, which he couldn't.
yeah.
I mean,
Originally that was supposed to be a sequel to Escape from L.A. with Kurt Russell in it, which would have been interesting.
Really?
Escape from Earth.
Yeah.
He couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I think it was a rights issue or something.
Something weird.
Do the concept. So
I think of all John Carpenter's films, Ghost of Mars was one I had the roughest time with.
See, I love
just-
Ghost of Mars.
Wasn't into that one.
I saw that as like Escape from New York, just with a female character.
Yeah, I think if you look at it from that, if you look at it with that type of mindset, then you may have a better appreciation for it. There is some odd editing in that movie, which
Yes.
But I mean, there is some cool stuff in it too. But it's I like some of the cast. Some of the cast is good.
So bringing you back to Dead Alive and Peter Jackson, we're all talking about these directors whose earlier films are not nearly as good as their later films, and the fact that we have these amazing talents who are making these films with no budgets, really. Following was pretty low budget to no budget. Dark Star, pretty low budget to no budget, and the list could go on. And the thing is, this having been Peter Jackson's third movie, he finally got something that someone noticed him with. So he's this little New Zealander who no one seems to give two shits about, who makes a film that actually horror audiences actually grasp to. And what is it? It is a crazy ass gore zombie rom-com before, what was the famous shit? I'm trying to think of the rom-com zombie movie now.
Shaun of the Dead?
No, Shaun of the Dead. That everyone thinks is like one of the greatest rom-com zombie movies out there, and they thought it was like the first one. I've always seen this movie as the first rom-com zombie or zombie rom-com, however they say it, because of the fact that I saw it when it came out. So for me, it was fucking early '90s, and for a lot of people just haven't seen Dead Alive. So I don't know what you guys think about this, but that's how I think about Dead Alive / Brain Dead.
Well, it's definitely a movie that you can't ignore, and it's when you think about it, I guess Peter Jackson must have been like, "Yeah, try and blow this one off." I mean, come on.
So there's a lot of energy. There's a lot of energy in it.
One of
Dave,
your,
what are you?
Well, I have had some technical issues. I had to switch to my phone.
Okay.
It's better now, right?
yeah, it's better now.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, there's a lot of energy in the movie. I feel like from the beginning to the end, you can just, it's never like a dull moment in the movie, even though, but it doesn't, there is some parts where maybe it gets a little relentless, but it does have some, interesting pacing with the romance. And when they do go into the romance stuff, it is like kind of, it's so like cheesy that it's funny too, and they play it like a not even rom com, like almost like a slapstick type of romance sort of thing, like a screwball comedy.
You hit it earlier when you said a Buster Keaton movie. It
Yeah.
exactly feels like a romantic Buster Keaton movie. And I hadn't thought about that till you mentioned it, because some of the antics that he does because he's shy towards Paquita fall right into that.
Right.
So.
I think that helps anchor it down a little bit from it being just so like, so over the top with the violence and the gore and stuff and the zombie stuff. So it does help ground it a little bit and help it, so it doesn't make it so like this is like overwhelmingly like brutal, which it comes off as fun and not that way.
I think that was probably because of his reactions to Meet the Feebles, which I believe went a little too far, the wrong way. I don't know if you've both seen Meet the Feebles.
Yes.
Yeah, I've seen it.
I've seen it.
That's a hard one for me to recommend, even though I've seen it several times. But that one, I believe, does go a little bit too far in terms of the gore and even some of the romance between puppets and everything else in that movie. Whereas
I remember feeling it does feel a little unpleasant. There's some ickiness to it, like unpleasant, almost like some of the characters in Dead Alive, like the uncle character and some of the other like human characters, like I mean they're all human, but the mom character, just some really really terrible characters but there's a lot more of it in Meet the Feebles, I think.
Yeah. But I believe that the romance grounds a lot of that. Whereas Meet the Feebles, I don't think there's anything that grounds anything in that movie. That's a question we might have to ask when we actually, if we actually cover that movie one day. Is there anything that grounds the craziness in Meet the Feebles?
Yeah, it's like a Muppet spoof was there like a Miss Piggy character just kind of goes off the rail, For what
I ever wanted to take the piss out of the Muppets and Sesame Street, definitely watch this movie.
Well, I'm glad that Peter Jackson took a lot of chances with some of his earlier films. Like I said, I mean, even after this film, he did like Heavenly Creatures and The Frighteners, before hitting it really big with Lord of the Rings. But yeah,
what a leap in your career, huh? Meet the Feebles, Lord of the Rings.
I remember hearing about him doing Lord of the Rings at the time. Now nobody bats an eye at it, but when I first heard that, I was like, that is a very odd choice to direct Lord of the Rings, because it's like I'd only seen like Dead Alive and The Frighteners, and I didn't at the time. I hadn't seen Heavenly Creatures, but even that doesn't make sense though, because it's not like that epic.
No. Well, I kind of see the same thing with Sam Raimi. No one would give him a big budget to do a superhero movie, so he created one with Darkman, and of course that helped him secure the job for Spider-Man, because I do more than just gore films. I can do a superhero movie. I created my own superhero, which we'll definitely talk about Darkman at some point on the show. But I kind of think that a lot of
4K coming out on Darkman.
What was that, Dave?
So there's a new 4K coming out on Darkman pretty soon. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, because it's an amazing film. I'm waiting on that because normally they'll do a 4K and they'll do a Blu-ray version, and I'll at least be able to watch that before I get my 4K TV. Because I'm not like you. I ain't sporting the 4K yet, baby. But I will.
Well, it'll come with a Blu-ray and with
Yeah.
4K, but it has the Blu-ray has the 4K upscale in it. So basically, they'll scan the film in a 4K version, but then they master it to Blu-ray for that. But it looks very similar to the 4K.
Oh, that's
So
good.
yeah. So if you see one with the Blu-ray in it, like most of the time, that Blu-ray, sometimes you have to look and read the details on it. But a lot of times that is a 4K scan, and you're not going to see like a lot of difference between that and the real 4K.
Oh, that's good to know. Yeah, I have several 4K discs already because of that. I bought them because I just bought something. They Live. I bought the 4K They Live because they had the Blu-ray with it, so I get to now watch a really good version of They Live. Because I have a really old DVD copy of They Live, and I need to watch a good copy.
Just curious, did they ever come out with a 4K of The Hidden by any chance?
No, they haven't yet. No.
Okay.
Hidden. Wow.
They need to do it.
Yeah.
But...
That's an interesting one you guys brought up. I thought I was the only one that ever fucking saw that movie.
The actor from
they got a
what's his face? Yes.
Yeah, Tom McLaughlin. Yeah, they do have a Blu-ray out. I read it was pretty good. I hadn't gotten it yet too. I figured once I buy that Blu-ray, they'll come out with a 4K like the next month. It's like
I have a DVD version that has both part 1 and part 2 of The Hidden on it.
Heard that part 2 is total trash.
It is. They shouldn't have made it, but when it came out, every fucking company with IP that was successful at some point, they were making random sequels to everything. It happens.
As you do.
So, but if you watch it once and then that's all you need to watch. Hidden is an amazing movie though. That's a good one. I'm putting that on the list. We're going to talk about The Hidden. So,
I'll buy it if you really want to do it. I guess I'll pull the trigger on it.
The Hidden is an amazing movie. I've added that to our list. We'll be talking about that pretty soon. And I'll put Bad Taste on there as well. Because the more we talk about these almost forgotten or hidden films, the more that other people will listen to what we talk about and hopefully go out there and seek these films. That's why I like to do these types of films. A lot of people out there may not know that Dead Alive is also known as Brain Dead in most of the rest of the world, or vice versa. People from the rest of the world may not know that it's also known as Dead Alive. Most people just know Peter Jackson from Lord of the Rings, or King Kong. I like to open them up to what he did before then. Bad Taste, Meet the Feebles, The Frighteners. Well, we're going to cover a lot of these films, hopefully, in our podcast, so that people get a better idea of where some of these famous directors came from, because they all didn't just come out of the gate slinging 100s with Lord of the Rings. They had to sling like a Bad Taste here or there, and just So that's kind of the goal. And when I hear about I think Jack Shoulder, I think that's his last name, did The Hidden, and he's done a lot of films after that. These earlier films are the films that we want to talk about, the ones we want to highlight. So with that, are there any other ideals, thoughts, or prayers that you want to tell the audience before we leave about Brain Dead / Dead Alive?
I had a comment about the very final shot in this film. After, the final big, gigantic zombie has been defeated, everything is destroyed, the house is up in flames, you're covered and you have both your main characters covered head to toe in blood, gore, and just infected zombie ooziness. Maybe that's not the time to have an open mouth final hero makeout session. Maybe wipe off some of that stuff off you before you have a deep open mouth kiss with each other. Because
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree. I thought it was a little odd, but also I thought the ending in itself, it was. I mean, most people don't think about it because it's like, okay, the movie's over, but it's like that's the end of the movie. They kiss, and then he's about to throw away his charm, and she tells him not to, and he's like, screw it, throws it away anyway, and then they walk off. But you're almost expecting there to be another gag, instead of them just walking off. But I guess it's kind of cool they get to walk off, but I don't know.
I
The
think
only
20
survivor.
minutes later, they're both zombies, and they're making another zombie baby. Quite frankly.
Oh wait, isn't
I don't know. I don't really want that to happen, but I don't know. I suspected something more. Maybe it cuts to the baby crawling out or something.
the baby zombie still alive at the end of the movie? So
No, I thought it was like.
But he's in the house burning, though.
Yeah.
I guess when they burn, they die. I don't know.
No, the baby could have survived. That's a valid point, actually.
all right. That any other thoughts, Dave, or is that it?
I think with this movie, I think this is a movie you're either going to love or you're going to be like, your relative you watched it with, and they're going to be like, turn this shit off. Probably going to be one of those two reactions.
You're either gonna like it or it's gonna damage you.
I will say that this is a film that should be watched with a lot of friends who can appreciate the type of film you are getting into when you watch it. It's also a good film, and Peter Jackson, if you're listening to this, please forgive me, but it's a good film to be high on or drinking a lot. So with your friends, obviously. So with that, I'm not promoting being drunks or being really high, but when you're watching this movie with your friends, that's probably a good thing to be. You will enjoy it so much more. So with that, I want to thank my guests, Dave and Nate, for joining us on this week's Conversation in Horror. I hope you've enjoyed our little tirade on indie filmmaking, gore, zombie babies, and a little bit of everything else thrown in with the kitchen sink. With that, thank you so much for joining us, and have a pleasant evening. Goodbye. Conversations in Horror is a Broken Lighthouse Pictures production, produced by Kevin L. Powers, executive produced by Kelly A. Inoka, and originally filmed via Zoom technology. Conversations in Horror is hosted by Kevin L. Powers and co-hosted by various horror film lovers and filmmakers. To learn more about Mr. Powers, please make sure to check out his Patreon page and other social media platforms. Conversations in Horror is copyright 2024 Broken Lighthouse Pictures production.